What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to FudgeMuppet. My name is Scott, and today we have another great Cyberpunk 2077 build for you guys. Today we're ditching the blades, ditching the guns, ditching the hacking. We are taking on the fight with our bare, cybernetically enhanced Knuckles. This build is going to give you that superhero punch experience, a true Brawler character who specializes in cracking skulls and punching foes really damn hard. So let's get ready to one-man punch our way through most of Night City. Sometimes we need a little one too. So let's start with character creation. The two main stats for this character are going to be body and cool, but also in the later game we'll be upping our reflexes stat, which will really take our crit chance and movement speed to the even more ridiculous level that you see here, fulfilling that cybernetic superhuman fantasy. We start out by investing 3 points into body and cool to bring them to 6, and we add the final point to reflexes. In terms of attribute progression, you'll probably want to cycle alternate point investment into both focus stats of body and cool until you're about 14 at each, and then you can pump body to 20, then do the same for cool, and then after that you can focus on pumping reflexes for that extra speed and crit chance. But now let's get into cyberware. The absolute cornerstone of this build is the gorilla arms, and you'll want to prioritize getting the best available versions of these ASAP. In the early game you can make do with some brawling based weapons like clubs, bats and such, because your bare unenhanced fists won't really get you that far. The other important cybernetic enhancement will be the Berserk Augment, which will replace your cyber deck and allow you to activate a Berserker mode where you can do these awesome superhero landings and get large boosts to your melee damage, armor and resistances, which is great for a character that is out in the open, charging oncoming gunfire. So gorilla arms and the Berserk cyberware are essentials, but there are also many other available augments which directly enhance our playstyle. Keep in mind that some of these may not be available to you until you have later high reflex levels, or you may only be able to get less powered versions of these earlier on. The Adrenaline Booster is a great choice which returns a percentage of stamina back to your character upon defeating an enemy, which keeps the steamrollin' train running. There is also the Bioconductor, which will reduce all our cyberware cooldowns, allowing us to more often take advantage of the Berserk mode. There is Cata-Resist, which will vastly enhance our resistances, and Shock and Awe is a great close quarters option, which will make it so there's a 10% chance of releasing a large electroshock that deals damage to nearby enemies every time you take damage, which you can see helps me a few times in the gameplay. Subdermal armor is clearly powerful and provides a very big boost to armor rating, which will only be further increased by the conditions of a lot of our perk choices. Like the Samurai build, I also like to use the Synaptic Accelerator, which slows time for 4 seconds when you are detected by enemies, allowing you to assess the situation and close the gap. It's just a nice advantage for the beginning of combat as a melee-based character. Micro Rotors are going to boost our attack speed, and the Synaptic Signal Optimizer will help us by boosting our maximum health so we can tank more hits. Finally, there's also Second Heart, which restores 100% of your max health when your health falls to 0. I found this to actually be quite useful because sometimes there are just those moments where you happen to be near an oil tanker or a barrel or something, and then all of a sudden you end up getting one hit killed by this explosion no matter how tough you are, and this gives you a second chance to beat the hell out of the guy who just tried to kill you. But now I think it's about time we get into the essential perks for this character. Bear in mind that I am at max level here, and there are perks I have selected that I would not deem as essential to the character build, but rather just extra convenient boosts or optional. I really want to focus in on the perks that I would consider are essential and would be achievable by around level 25 to 30 with non-stop investment into body and cool from the get-go. So let's start with the body skills in particular. Let's begin with Street Brawler, the cornerstone of this character's playstyle. Crushing blows at 3 ranks will increase our strong attack damage by 50%, and as you can see in the gameplay, this pays off, as I often think a good strategy is to open up with a strong punch, which often results in an instant kill at high levels when combined with other attributes and perks. Flurry at 3 ranks increases damage from combo attacks with blunt weapons by 50%, which will be very handy early on in the game, but as you get to the really high levels, single punches will often get the job done. However, there'll always be those cyber psychos or tough enemies that still need the good old-fashioned 1, 2, 3. Dazed makes it so that all attacks with blunt weapons have a 30% chance to apply stun, which will work very well with some future perks we will discuss, but at face value it opens opportunities to maneuver. Efficient blows reduces stamina cost of all attacks with blunt weapons by 50% at 2 ranks, which is important because you really don't want to be caught in the middle of gunfire, unable to deliver finishing blows before they can shoot you. Opportune Strike is going to increase the damage with blunt weapons against enemies affected by stun by 50%, which plays into the fact we have a 30% chance of stunning per hit. Payback is going to increase damage with blunt weapons by 3% per 1% of your missing health, which means if you have 50% missing health, you're going to do 150% more damage with your fists. Honestly, this is far more important for an early to mid-game character, as later on with all the cold blood perks and cyberware we get, you won't take advantage of it as much, but I think it is still worth for your first 20 to 30 levels, and you should have more than enough perks for it. It will still come in handy later game as well, but more rarely. Reinvigorate at 3 ranks will get you 30% stamina back upon killing with a strong attack, which helps you not get stuck in that situation where you could attack but you have drained all your stamina. And also Relentless makes it so that successful attacks against enemies who are affected by stun will restore 30% stamina. Ultimately, these stamina recovery perks are really great to make sure that we'll never be in a situation where we want to attack but can't. Thrash is a later perk that will make it so our strong attacks will reduce the target's armor by 30% for 10 seconds, which works well with our playstyle that generally opens with a strong attack followed by a combo if needed. Unshakable is also fantastic and makes it so our successful attacks against enemies affected by stun restore 15% health and 15% stamina, helping our survivability immensely. Also, Frenzy, the perk which increases our damage by 100% for 10 seconds after killing an enemy with a blunt weapon or your fists, is just amazing for racking up those one-shot kills. Finally, when you have the Street Brawler skill maxed, you can get the Gorilla perk, which increases crit damage by 60% for 10 seconds upon entering combat, which funnily enough works very, very well with 2 stealth perks that I would recommend, not to increase your stealth abilities, but rather to increase your opening combat effectiveness. These 2 perks are from the Shadows, which increases crit chance by 50% for 7 seconds upon entering combat, and Hasty Retreat, which increases movement speed by 50% for 5 seconds when you first enter combat. So all of these perks stacked together help you close the gap and unleash some seriously powerful opening damage in combat. But that is all from the stealth and brawler trees. Let's have a look at the athletics tree and some of the annihilation tree. While we aren't going to be using weapons like shotguns or light machine guns, we can still, due to a high body stat, take advantage of some of the perks in this tree which actually offer general character benefits. Hit the Deck at 2 ranks increases damage to staggered and knocked down enemies by 20%, which happens to be plenty for us. Manic also increases your movement speed by 20% for 10 seconds when you first enter combat. Momentum Shift also makes it so defeating an enemy increases movement speed by 20% for 10 seconds, and of course, movement speed is valuable for a build that relies on close quarters combat. You can also get Speed Demon, which makes you do more damage depending on how fast you are moving, but I feel like it isn't the most important perk as you sometimes stop and then start. However, I just got it because I had heaps of perks to spend and it occasionally factors in. Now let's get into athletics and then we'll tackle cold blood. First, I want to say that there are plenty of options here that I have selected related to health regeneration. Now this is entirely unnecessary and I would not prioritize these in the early game at all. It comes from a place of convenience. If you want to, you can get them, but I will say that it's very easy in this game to have plentiful healing consumables, and I was never really in a situation where I could not use one when I was in danger. Most often, I was either killed instantly by an explosion or something, which can't be helped, or I was in a position where I lost 30% health all of a sudden, where I had the opportunity to pop a consumable and get my health back quickly. So they are optional, but I wouldn't call them essential. Anyways, back to the essential perks. Invincible at 3 ranks will increase your max health by 30%, and True Grit does the same for 30% at 3 ranks, but for stamina, which I think are both sturdy boosts for this build. Steel and Chrome is going to give you at 2 ranks a flat 20% increase to melee damage. Steel Shell is going to give you a straightforward 10% boost to armor. The Rock will make it so you cannot be knocked down by enemies. Indestructible reduces all incoming damage by 10% flat out, and Marathoner makes it so Sprint does not drain stamina, allowing you to save all of that stamina for unleashing big hits on enemies. So if you've been watching our builds, you'll probably have deduced that the Cold Blood skill is really powerful and useful for pretty much every build, plus the high cool stat boosts your resistances and your crit damage, so it's all round great. In terms of perks, we are going to want the 3 ranks of Cold Blood as well as Cold Coldest Blood, and Unbreakable, which altogether give us a max of 5 Cold Blood stacks, and for those unaware, you gain a Cold Blood stack upon a kill, which at 5 kills will increase our movement speed by 10%. Helpful, but not the point of this ability. We'll also get Pain as an Illusion, which reduces damage taken by 5% while Cold Blood is active, along with Blood Brawl, which will increase melee damage by 10% as long as Cold Blood is active. We are going to want all ranks of Predator, which will increase our attack speed by 30% per stack of Cold Blood, which gives us a 150% boost at max stacks. Defensive Clodding is going to increase your armor by 20% per stack of Cold Blood, so ultimately at 5 stacks this gives you a 100% boost to armor rating. Then Will to Survive is going to give you 5% resistances per stack, giving you a 25 boost to all resistances. But you may be thinking, well, you still got to kill 5 people. Well, there are 2 other perks that are going to give us Cold Blood stacks without having to rack up 5 kills necessarily. Cold and Calculating now gives us a 25% chance of getting a stack of Cold Blood added when we land a critical hit, which will up our chances of stacking Cold Blood on fewer enemies. Also, we get the perk Blood Swell, which means for some reason if we get compromised and our health falls below 45%, we instantly get a max stack of Cold Blood, which gives us all of the maximum aforementioned effects, which is really powerful. The final perk I would recommend here is the perk Coolagulant, which makes it so that instead of 10 seconds finishing and then losing all stacks of Cold Blood, you instead lose 1 at a time per 10 seconds. So clearly, as you can see, all of this culminates in a superhuman brawler, a character who can simply charge into battle, fists raised, ready to knock some sense into Night City. Like I mentioned for the Samurai build, because of our perk combinations, opening with a strong attack will often have potential for massive opening damage, and as you can continue leveling beyond max body and cool, you will realize that the reflexes boosts to movement speed and crit chance will just turn your character into an actual superhuman. Remember, the more you kill, the stronger you become thanks to Cold Blood, so keep that momentum going. So now it's ready for you to enjoy, take those gorilla fists and cave in some skulls. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy yourself playing this brawler build. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet. Like the video and subscribe for more Cyberpunk content. Thanks again, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.